Hello, hello. Welcome to the Green Nurse Holistic Caring, where we bring you all hope and inspiration for growth and healing. And we're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good and use plant medicines. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. And so we've been doing these monthly webcasts on various conditions and talking about various cannabinoid formulations that may be helpful for that particular condition and the associated symptoms. Here's a little video about what we do in the cannabis space as cannabis nurses, and what we're going to be doing in this space is change agents for the evolution of cannabis, other plant medicines, and changing the dialogue of how we take care of patients. So here we go. Let's get started with that handy dandy little video, and we will get started with the show.
Change the paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship. And what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine. And I'm excited to really bring this into light. There's a company called Canum that we're merging with, and we will now be doing global education.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
And it's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers. Well, there you go, y'all. Game changers, hope, inspiration, growth, and healing. So excited. And I'm really excited to introduce to you all my business partner and co-host for our Green Nurse Holistic Caring monthly educational webcast, Elisabeth Mack. And she is quite impressive. She's got so many different roles in the community, in the cannabis space, including being the CEO and founder of Holistic Caring, where she graciously took in the Green Nurses. She's president of Holistic Caring, Inc., a 501c3, a nonprofit, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in the show. She's director of clinical affairs for Canum, founding member of the Cannabis Nurses Network, treasurer of the American Cannabis Nurses Association. She was just reelected with the most votes. And she serves on the board of Los Angeles Normal and the San Diego Chamber of Commerce. So Elisabeth, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Nurse Sherri. It's a pleasure to be here today with you, as always, and I'm looking forward to doing a good show. Thank you for the intro and all you do for the community as well.
Oh, thank you, Elisabeth. And I'm really excited and grateful to be able to bring your patient and provider programs to life, as we provide those hugs and nugs of education on specific conditions. And we're going to be talking too about what Green Nurse approved formulations may be helpful for those specific conditions. And so today's topic is really important to me because it was, gastrointestinal health, gut health. No one really wants to talk about poop or anything that is less than pleasant that comes out of our bodies. But these things need to be talked about and discussed as a means to decrease stigma for healing. And so today we're going to talk about inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, versus irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. So Elisabeth, while I pull up those handy dandy slides, you want to go into a little bit of a review about what that is?
Sure. Yeah. So April is Irritable Bowel Syndrome Awareness Month, and it's good to have an Awareness Month campaign for something each month. And when we're talking about IBS, what is IBS? How many people have it, etc. So irritable bowel syndrome is an intestinal condition where pain, bloating, alternating constipation, diarrhea, it can vacillate between both or express mainly as one or the other. But it affects the quality of life. We call this a functional status condition, where it is something that is disturbing to how you normally live your daily life, but it's not something that's going to take you out, as you will. It's not a terminal or a very serious condition. So about 20% of the population struggles with some IBS symptoms. Off and on, and it can go in waves, right? It can have a lot of an emotional component, dietary, which we'll talk about as well. But it is something that many people have to deal with on a daily basis.
Right.
So IBS is often confused with IBD. So inflammatory bowel disease is something that is much more serious. It only affects about 2% of the population. And this is something that can be very, very it's something that you have to treat, right? So the inflammation can cause erosions and lesions in the large bowel and the intestines. This can cause bleeding. It can cause all kinds of same symptoms as IBS. But generally, it's much more expressed as diarrhea and a lot of intestinal pain. And if these lesions break open, they can cause bleeding, and you can have life-threatening symptoms as well. So it's something that is treated with some heavy pharmaceuticals as well as surgery. You can do, a lot of times when we're talking about ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, you might need to actually remove part of the intestine that's diseased. And then you can resect that and hopefully repair. So, we just want to draw some attention to, IBS and how that can be treated with diet, emotional regulation, and some medications. And then IBD, something that needs much more serious pharmaceuticals and a surgical approach. So that's absolutely the differences.
So when we think of these things, we want to think of itis, right? So we think of itis means the inflammation. So inflammatory bowel disease, we have colitis, enterocolitis. You have gastroenteritis, that can be caused by a lot of different things, whether it be viruses or funguses or even bacterial infections. And so these things all can affect gut health. Why is gut health so important? Well, we have a whole universe. Think about a universe in our gut, the microbiome. Our enteric nervous system is from our mouth to our butt, right? And it's and it communicates to our central nervous system and our immune system via the endocannabinoid system. And this part is really, really exciting because we're going to get into how and why cannabis can work on these different conditions, to not only bridge the gap from what you're not getting from conditional, but also to maintain health and homeostasis for gastrointestinal health and help people live a better quality of life. So Elisabeth, there's some gender differences, so when we're going to specifically focus a little bit now on irritable bowel syndrome, a little bit about the gender differences, because irritable bowel syndrome is also related to two other conditions that we're going to talk about with the endocannabinoid system that Ethan Russo talked about. So when we talk about irritable bowel and gender differences, women are more effective, right? And why do they think that, Elisabeth?
Well, some women create more prostaglandins, which cause the uterus to contract, and that can move through the bloodstream to the bowel, and that can cause contraction, cramping, and diarrhea. And so, when there's excess prostaglandins, many people reach for Motrin, ibuprofen, the NSAIDs. That family of drugs can reduce the production of prostaglandins, so that's why they help. And so, what we want to do is look at how we can use natural medicines and cannabinoids to help reduce maybe some of those prostaglandins as well. So if we talk about IBS and some of the work of Ethan Russo, we can look at with clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. Why do things in the body get out of whack? Why do they get imbalanced in the first place? Right. So, there's women issues, but then there's just regular folks issues. And, when we're looking at IBS, if we can think about signaling, think about cells communicating and signaling between them, that needs to be on par and in balance all the time. And when it runs off cycle, we can develop pain, migraines, IBS, fibromyalgia. All of these go together in what we call a clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And that's what Ethan Russo wrote about extensively, starting all the way back in 2001, on how if the endocannabinoid system is not making the endocannabinoids to activate the receptors to bring these cells back into balance, what is the downstream effects of that and the ramifications of staying off balance? Right. And if this system is not working, how do we supplement with phytocannabinoids, just like we would supplement with vitamin D or any of the other pharmaceuticals that we might want to, or botanicals is a better example, to restore balance to our system.
So what's really, really important too is I was consulting with a couple of patients this morning, and we were talking about the endocannabinoid system and cannabinoids being a pleiotropic to work on different multiple physiological systems at the same time. They really didn't understand how it could work on mind, body, and spirit. And so I kind of broke it down. I call it the Green Nurses umbrella. So you guys all see, our logo is the umbrella for Green Nurse Approved. And the umbrella really depicts to me the endocannabinoid system and what that might look like and how cannabis really works on that. So we have an endocannabinoid system, not because of the cannabis plant, but because we make molecules in our body very similar to the plant. We make internal endogenous cannabinoids. And I'm going to give you a quick example. This was a shoe dropper. The plant makes THC. We make a molecule called anandamide. And the molecular structure is very, very similar, plugs into the receptors and does the same thing, right? So THC molecule is 10 times stronger than our anandamide molecule, or another way of saying that is the anandamide molecule is 1/10 the strength of the THC molecule. That is the reason why when we're discussing dosing and formulations, that you don't need a lot of THC, but a little can go a long way in helping to regulate our endocannabinoid system. So imagine the umbrella. All the spokes of the umbrella are your different organ systems in your immune system. The fabric pieces that attach to the spokes of the umbrella are those neurotransmitter signaling systems. The endocannabinoid system blankets on top of our entire umbrella because we have cannabinoid receptors on all of the cell surfaces of our organ systems and at the neurotransmitter signaling junction sites. So we produce internal endogenous cannabinoids upon demand. What's going on our umbrella? The light switch is going on and off all day for us to produce these internal endogenous cannabinoids to shower on our umbrella, to keep our umbrella going up and down nicely, represents homeostasis amongst all of the 11 organ systems. So if we are not producing enough of our own internal endogenous cannabinoids, what happens? Messages don't get where they need to go, and our body gets confused and is always trying to auto-regulate. And then we start to see tears in the fabric of our umbrella, and we start to see different areas of our body starting to compensate for what it's not getting. So the goal of cannabinoid therapeutics is to supplement with phytobotanical nutrients, cannabinoid-rich formulations, to stimulate your system to start doing its own thing, to give messages. Right? It's not about taking more. It's about utilizing this plant to nourish this most important system that's going to control everything. So that's a pretty bottom line. So when you think about gastrointestinal health, functional health, the endocannabinoid system plays a part in all of our 11 organ systems and our immune system and the messenger signaling systems. So let's get back really quickly here to how and why, right? So we just talked about the system. Let's get into here. Let's talk a little bit about studies, and then we'll talk about how the endocannabinoid system, well, actually, let's start with that, Elisabeth, how the endocannabinoid system regulates every level of our gut, right? And then specifically with irritable bowel.
So the ECS, it's tagged with regulating all systems, right? So going back to that umbrella, it works on everything, and not just at a receptor level like pharmaceuticals, right? So
Right.
it works on the body, mind, spirit in totality. And when we're comparing and contrasting the medications that we could use, botanical nutrients from CBD and THC versus pharmaceuticals, we can really get patients to understand that when you take botanical formulations like CBD and THC, you can stimulate the receptors. So, for instance, CBD is a potent anti-inflammatory. It works across the board on so many different levels. And when we could talk about chemotypes, so CBD is chemotype 3. It is if we talk about THC's chemotype 1, chemotype 2 is a balanced 1-to-1 CBD THC, and chemotype 3 is a high CBD. And we're talking mainly, let's think about a 20-to-1, so 20 parts CBD, 1 part THC. It'll still have a little bit of THC, 0.3% or less is allowed in chemotype 3 as far as hemp is denoted, but it's going to be an anti-inflammatory. So think about raising the levels of your own anandamide as well as suppressing inflammation. So when we take CBD, it helps us keep more of the anandamide that we are making. So cell-to-cell signaling, there's imbalance in the cell membranes, and so CBD or anandamide can be manufactured on demand in response to this stress and float back to activate those receptors. So what CBD does in the body is it helps to inhibit the enzymes that break down anandamide. So when we take CBD, it helps us stimulate more of our own endocannabinoids to be circulating, kind of like an SSRI helps serotonin stay in the system. Taking CBD helps anandamide, our own internal regulator, and our bliss molecule, the one that we are making endogenously, can be more active. And so when we have that, we're going to feel better across the board in our mind, body, spirit, emotion, and B, we're going to have more anti-inflammatory effects that anandamide and 2-AG can promote, because CBD is going to stimulate that. When we take THC, it's going to directly activate the receptors. So CBD doesn't necessarily activate the receptors that bring us back into balance in the gut, but THC does, and THCA does, and some of the other phytonutrients and CBG. So activating the gut in its own right to hit these receptors that are going to restore balance. So when we take THC, we can activate those receptors that will either slow down or speed up gut motility, so the propulsion, and as well as the acids and the secretions that need to accompany everything, because it's a complicated system in that gut, right?
Well, but the part that's so cool is when we're looking at irritable bowel syndrome, the endocannabinoid system regulates what? The anti-inflammatory signals, the serotonin signaling. We make serotonin in our gut, and also maintains the balance of healthy gut bacteria, that microbiome. We want to keep the healthy bacteria growing and the bad bacteria down. And so cannabinoids plus other phytobotanical nutrients and supplements can really help with that. So the endocannabinoid system, works on 3 major gut functions, right? So it modulates inflammation, both the CB1 and the CB2 receptor activation, protects the gut and modulates the pain that people may have. It also regulates digestive action. So the endocannabinoid system modulates the propulsion or the motility, how things are moving, or gastric motility is constantly. We don't want to go fast or slow. It doesn't make sense. We want it to be even. When you think about blood glucose levels, right? You want to maintain glycemic index steady. Same thing. You want to keep your gastric motility even and steady. So the endocannabinoid system regulates that. It also modulates gastric secretions when you think about enzymes that are breaking things down. And these activation, right? The CB1 activation, the CB1 receptors calms down the nausea, right? Slows down the emptying of the stomach, reduces stomach acid, and stimulates appetite. That's specifically for THC, right? And so then, it also cannabinoids regulates communication to our brain. You've all heard of the gut-brain connection. So the endocannabinoid system, like we talked about, the enteric nervous system has both CB1 and CB2 receptors, esophagus to our rectum, right? So both the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system use the same receptors, neurons, and neurotransmitters. Wow, how cool is that? They speak the same language, right? And so this is how our brain and gut communicate with each other through the endocannabinoid system. So I just love that, right? So the brain changes. You think about, when we have stress and pain, that can alter gastrointestinal function, right? And so improved bowel health actually improves brain health. And there is such a thing called nutritional psychiatry, which I think is really cool. Now, Elisabeth, what I find really cool, you just talked about these chemotypes. So I pulled up some studies on cannabis, and we're just going to do a quick review. But the most studies that were done on chemotype, the CBD dominant, chemotype 3. So the majority of the studies were done on that. And that's exactly what Elisabeth said, like the 20-to-1 formulations. They have 20 part CBD, 1 part THC, rich products with other essential fatty acids, other cannabinoids, terpenes, and bioflavonoids and canaflavins, right? And so the results were extremely promising. So in cannabis, they look at, in vitro, in vivo, meta-analysis, clinical studies, double blind. And so the results of these particular studies, I'm just going to not get into the details of them, but one of them was 80% overall positive. So an overall positive 80%. And then when they looked at it even deeper and in clinical studies, they gave a 75% positive clinical results. So that to me is really, really profound, and we're really starting to see, this being taken seriously. These things are coming up, and we know, what is the most important thing, right? Relieve suffering, improve quality of life. So when we are supporting the endocannabinoid system for gut health, Elisabeth, what are we looking at?
Well, it's so many different things, right? So, first of all, when you're taking CBD into the body, right? So it's reducing the inflammation. If we can reduce the inflammation, we can reduce some of the lesions and some of the issues that inflammatory processes create. THC is going to directly activate things like TNF alpha. And what that does in the body is being able to reduce cytokine activity. Cytokine activity, when we think about, with respect to COVID, it's when the immune system is all stirred up, right? And
Right.
so that again is going to reduce the inflammation and going back to, propulsion and secretions, stimulate the correct balance of that so that everything calms down. When we have GI issues and people are using chemotype 1, I can go back to the high THC. There was a study done in Israel from Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam is Hebrew for heal the world, one of my favorite phrases to say. And they carried out a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial with respect to Chrons patients who were using inhalation of a strain called Erez. Erez is a high THC strain. They gave it to patients. After 8 weeks, the researchers found that 45% of the test population achieved remission from their Crohn's symptoms. So after 2 months, 90% of them reported a significant improvement in their quality of life. Pain levels were reduced. Appetites increased, weight improved, and the patients that were taking steroids at the beginning of the treatment were able to wean off of those steroids. So think about prednisone and some of these medications that we're giving for IBD and Crohn's. It's having a really good effect. So,
Yeah.
When you're working with your patients with IBS and IBD, are they using inhalation? Are they using high THC strains? And what is the effect that you're seeing?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, it's really interesting. I've actually read and did some research. There was actually a father who had twins who had Crohn's, and they were in their teen years, and he studied cannabis formulations. And what he ended up doing was growing his own and juicing it for his daughters. So you think about the raw plant, when it comes out of the ground, it is so rich with so many different, it's perfect. It's the perfect food. And so the acidic compounds of this plant, CBDA, CBGA, THCA, he was able to give his daughters juice this And the daughters started to heal by just juicing cannabis. That was it. That's one story. Another story is a patient, a man, a teacher that I've been taking care of for a while. And what he really needed, not only was he using CBD FICO, full extract cannabis oil, CBD rich, ethanol extraction, really concentrated oil, but he needed to use concentrated THC, not just the Rick Simpson oil. So he did a 1-to-1 in capsules, and he did that 3 times a day. But also for his severe symptoms, he needed inhalation. But what ended up happening with him was because he needed such large amounts of THC and he needed to hit it from different angles, he outgrew smoking and vaping. So what actually ended up being very effective for him was using a combination of different concentrates, dabbing, believe it or not, high THC rosin, and CBG. And it was only, he just used inhalation as a rescue. So for the most part, he was on whole plant formulations, full extract cannabis oil CBD, and full extract cannabis oil high THC, taking them in various ratios. And for him in particular, when we're talking about chemotypes, very similar. There's a lot of patients, when we're talking about CBD to THC, and he's a teacher, so you need to understand he needs to function. The goal of him was to decrease pain, sleep, and be able to eat without nausea so he could go to school and teach his kids. So what he ended up doing was he figured out his ratio. So we're looking at CBD to THC ratio. It's different for everyone. So in this particular patient's case, as long as he had equal amounts of CBD to THC, he was not impaired. And so that's the part that's really cool when we're talking about CBD and people that need high doses of THC. For these gastrointestinal illnesses, CBD can dial down the effect of psychoactivity without taking away the medicinal effect. A lot of patients will say, oh no, I don't want to do CBD. It's going to ruin my THC. I'm like, no, it's not. It actually, CBD helps you to control how THC makes you feel. Right. And so once you listen to your smart body, knock, 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 we all have smart bodies, right? We have the opportunity to learn how these formulations can work for us and we can control it. How cool is it to be able to control your experience and how this plant works?
Well, yeah,
Fascinated.
It is fascinating, and on the chemotypes, it's not just one or the other. I always teach patients it's not
multiple.
Cannabis is not one thing. Chemotypes are not one thing.
Yep.
We need to understand the different routes of administration, the different formulations that are available to patients. So chemotype 1 might be reserved for in the evening, right? When somebody gets home, they're no longer driving, they're no longer teaching, they're no longer working. They've had dinner, they're able to have a few puffs off of their vape or flower or a dab of something that's high THC to mitigate the pain. That's still going to be staying in their system enough the next day, but it's not going to be in concentration that's going to be impairing or psychoactive, right? That 1-to-1 capsule, once somebody builds tolerance, can also be utilized, or maybe even a 4-to-1, where it's 4 parts CBD and 1 part THC during the day. Or that 1-to-1 when you've got tolerance. So you can take a capsule and have no levels of impairment because the CBD is acting as that negative allosteric modulator at CB1, so that we're able to limit the degree of intoxication, impairment, psychoactive effects from THC. They're really not going to be there when CBD is present. And then that morning go-to could be high CBD. CBD, CBG, one of my favorites, especially for gut health. CBG is very anti-inflammatory and also activates CB2 receptors in the gut. PPAR, GP55, TRP receptors.
TRP receptors,
have to do with the scientific principles of why this works, which they're still studying in the lab with the rodents and the cell cultures because of Schedule 1 restrictions on studying these different phenotypes, but we're learning every day, how this is impacting, in the scientific world, and then translating that for patients right here, right now, in modern times with all of these beautiful formulations that we have access to. So it's a beautiful day to really bring patients through this, from taking the science and applying it today by helping them shop in dispensaries.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about some of our favorite products in just a couple of minutes. But, the part so here we are, we're talking about cannabis. We're talking about cannabis-rich formulations. We're talking about the different types. But the other thing we need to think about too is our diet and those other choices, right? So consuming foods that not only, that are rich in cannabinoids and hemp, you can get hemp milk, hemp hearts, right? You're getting this rich dietary, you want nutrient dense food, phytocannabinoid supplements like hemp, clove, black pepper, hops. We want to increase our healthy fat intake, fish, nuts, seeds. You think about that. Cannabinoids are fat soluble, right? Essential fatty acids are essential for protecting our cells. Our cells are protected by a thin layer of fat, and we want to have it as healthy as possible to get those nutrients in. And then those
and the precursor to making
yes.
your endocannabinoids. So if you're having good, healthy omega-3s and fatty acids, you're making the endocannabinoids.
Yes.
So don't forget about that.
I totally forgot. You're right. So that's true. So the healthier the fat, right? That more healthy fats that you can consume, the more you're going to help your own body to create your own internal endogenous cannabinoids, the anandamide molecule that's very similar to the THC. So here's the other thing that's cool. I never knew about this. Cruciferous vegetables, right? You think about the cauliflowers, the broccoli, the cabbages. Did y'all know that helps to activate CB2 receptors? That's pretty cool, right?
Love broccoli. I could eat broccoli every day. I love it.
I know you do.
And fiber. So just fiber. You could take a psyllium capsule. You could eat a lot of fiber, but a high fiber diet is going to help push things through the intestinal system, as well as promoting nutrient uptake. Right. So we want to take the nutrients in that we want to absorb from our diet, and make sure that we're getting enough water. People are not thinking about water enough. My mom is sick, and I'm trying to bring her a glass of water every couple hours, because you really got to think about water intake, and don't wait until you're thirsty. Your body needs water. We're 70+% water, but when we're talking about gut health, many of us are shortchanging how much we think that we need water, and that really helps. And we'll go to more diet in a minute, but lastly, reducing stress. Meditation and exercise are my go-tos. I have to meditate every day, and I have to have exercise every day. Listening to your body, going back to that smart body, right? It's like, how do we get everything to be working to support the endocannabinoid dome? This is something that we're barely talking about in cannabinoid therapeutics, and not at all in conventional care. Thinking about the endocannabinoid dome. If this umbrella of systems is all supported by the endocannabinoid system, how do we take care of that system? Meditation, prayer, yoga, stretching, working our body, exercising, cardiovascular exercise, omega-3s, water, high fiber, fruits and vegetables of all the colors of the rainbow, and speaking up, setting boundaries, knowing our place in the world, and feeling content with that. All of these, have to do with how we're maintaining our health, and they all support the endocannabinoid system. So if we're doing these things, we should have less IBS. Less, functional conditions that are impairing our quality of life. Functional pain, sleep, just anxiety, stress, feeling that sense of calm and capability. All of these are supported by taking care of our ECS.
Right. And what's the alternative? Okay. Conventional treatment has a pill for gas and bloating, a pill to reduce inflammation, a pill to reduce gastric secretions, a pill to make the ulcers go away, a pill for diarrhea, a pill for constipation. And then when you're so depressed, what you're doing is you're taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety agents. And just a quick reminder, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, we are not anti-pharma, because pharmaceuticals play a very, very important role. But the thing about pharmaceuticals that people need to understand, if you're taking 5 or more pharmaceuticals, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. 10 or more prescribed pharmaceuticals, 100% chance that they're interacting and probably not in your best and highest interest. This is where cannabis can.
And when people are taking those pills, opiates, NSAIDs, antidepressants, antihistamines, blood pressure pills, all slow down gut motility. So if you're suffering with constipation, look at the pills.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like you said too, cannabis is a pleiotropic, working on multiple different systems at the same time. It promotes total healthcare, THC, right? The biopsychosocial spiritual aspects of healing. We want to do more of what supports the endocannabinoid system and do less of what doesn't support it. So let's talk about a product line and the reason why I'm really passionate about Bloom Hemp is because that product that we're going to pull up and talk about completely 100% changed my life when I was traveling. So traveling with Elisabeth across the globe in 3 different countries, 3 different time zones for 3 weeks. And part of my story, I've got gastrointestinal problems. This is part of my story of what led me to cannabis as medicine. And inhalation is part of what I need to do as my medicine. However, when you're traveling, you got to be very careful. And so, I was really, really nervous about that. So this handy dandy little product we're going to talk about from Bloom Hemp is called Essential Digestive Tincture. And let me just pull up those notes in that slide. All right, Bloom Hemp. Well, first of all, Elisabeth, let's talk about what does it mean to be Green Nurse approved?
Wow. Well, Green Nurse approved is you've passed the test, right? So you've got COAs, or the certificate of analysis, that prove the potency and the purity of your medications that we're going to put into our CBD marketplace. And Bloom meets all of those categories, hands down. Also, the ethical business practices, the transparent business practices, the people that are in the industry to really develop formulations that are going to improve patient access and quality of life and care. And somebody that's not just out there to get CBD into the gas station, there's somebody that is actually doing the right thing. And, so vetting across the board that they've got sound business practices and sound manufacturing. Bloom, this particular vendor, also grows USDA organic hemp. So all of their phytonutrients are grown organically, so free from pesticides, using bugs to eat the insects rather than spraying the plants and that sort of thing. So, really all of the business practices from seed to sale should be done with organic as much as possible in GMP processes, which, we're using in other countries for good manufacturing practices. It's a pharmaceutical distribution system that ensures quality, but not something that we're not always paying attention to here in this country, in America, especially CBD. It's unregulated right now. So what does unregulated mean for CBD? You can start a company, grow cannabis or buy biomass and create your formulations and put them into the supply chain. You can make claims as to what these are going to do. And all of this is so far unregulated. And what we're doing at Green Nurse Approved, a long-winded answer to this, is just making sure that we are doing business with people that have the gold standard like we do in our patient care coaching and our programs. We're creating this ecosystem of the gold standard with all of this on how we get the processes to train providers to get vetted products to patients with programs. And so Bloom meets all of these standards in good manufacturing, organic USDA hemp, and transparent business practices that have a COA, a QR code on every box on how these medicines are going to work, and a website that really educates people on not just the CBD, CBG, CBN that are in these formulations, but also the botanicals that accentuate and synergize with the cannabinoids and the terpenes, so that we're able to really heal people in a much more complete fashion, pleiotropically, so that these medicines get into the body and give you the best bang for the buck. So
yes. So really quickly, so we're just going to do a quick review here, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about this formulation. And the reason why is because it does support the endocannabinoid system. It not only has cold pressed hemp oil, just the different ingredients. I just want you all to be aware of different things to look for when you're thinking about specific conditions. So you think about essential digestive tincture. Not only is this going to help with my digestive tract, but it's also going to help my immune system, and it's also going to help work on my brain function, all at the same time. So the base oil is cold pressed hemp, which has folate, iron, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, and a protein containing all of hemp's beneficial nutrients. It's rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and it makes it a great carrier oil for the rest of the botanicals. What else is in there, Elisabeth?
On the digestive blend?
Yeah. You got the
I don't
notes?
know. Do you have it up?
All right. I got it. I got the, I'll go over it. All right. I just wanted to include you. I didn't want, but yeah, so I have all these notes up and I just want to talk about it. And you all know how excited I am. And as a nurse, if I find something that works, that's going to relieve suffering, improve quality of life, and it's going to help a patient that may not want to inhale, I have an obligation to talk about it. So anyways, coriander is in there. Coriander has geraniol in it. So that's a naturally occurring terpene, which helps to stimulate enzymes in the stomach, right? So what does this do? It soothes the gastrointestinal tract, aids in digestion. And when you stimulate these enzymes, it alleviates bloating and distension. And it can also support healthy liver function, bowel movements, and supports healthy cholesterol. Do you see how this is all interconnected? And then we got the next one, Elisabeth, fennel.
I love fennel.
Yeah.
Yeah, fennel used as a digestive aid and anti-inflammatory for centuries. Fennel is fiber-rich, reduces inflammation, relaxes muscles and stomach, which may help relieve bloating. And yeah, that sounds like a good one too. I love to eat fennel, but it's really important to put into this formulation, huh?
Yeah. And then the cumin, we found, curcumin reduces inflammation, increases the activity of stomach enzymes, boosts the digestive process. Same thing. It helps to release bile from our liver, which helps our body process fats and other nutrients. So when it acts as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. So, and think about too, cannabis is fat soluble. We want to be able to process and break down, fats in a healthy way. And so if this type of added ingredient can help that, thumbs up for the win, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Elisabeth, what do we got going on in the network?
So in the network, we always have a lot going on in the network. But we have this month 25% off our autoimmune and cannabis course. I wrote this course to include all of the autoimmune conditions. Probably 10% of all people on the globe suffer from some sort of an autoimmune condition, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, all kinds of different things, but IBD is in there. IBS, not so much, but IBD is definitely an autoimmune condition, and type 1 diabetes. So many different conditions are impacted by autoimmune processes and the endocannabinoid system, how this umbrella can modulate each and every one of those back to balance, reducing symptoms, improving quality of life, and maybe mitigating the disease itself. So many people, if they can right the ship on the endocannabinoid system, can see remission and at least reduction in symptoms from some of these autoimmune conditions. So this month, we're 25% off that course, that program. The program includes about an hour or so, maybe a few minutes more, recorded lecture about all of the different autoimmune conditions, all of the slides, the notes, the references, the research that built that presentation, as well as a patient guidebook on how to incorporate cannabinoids with all the different cannabinoids that are available in the modern dispensaries today, as well as the different routes of administration so that you can stack and use these to your best benefit. So lots of exciting things. And then the other things in the network that are going on, you're doing a show, another episode today, right, of your Green Nurse podcast with Maureen West. I can't wait to hear that. Cannabis healthcare attorney, I'm sorry. But she also knows cannabis and the peculiarities of working as a healthcare clinician, talking about cannabis and bringing some of this into your practice to complete and round out who you are and what you do and how you can better serve patients. So a healthcare attorney who also was a provider. She was a dental hygienist for many years before becoming an attorney. So just really representing the clinician that might want to be talking about cannabis. So I can't wait to hear that. What else is going on in the network? So next week, we're going to be talking to Chris Williams, business building guidance. We talk about, I built the licensed cannabis health coach program to be sort of this business in a box, the best curriculum, the most comprehensive curriculum on earth that you could learn this, as well as a toolkit to plug and play and build your business in the practice and give you all the forms and patient teaching and care plans and formulary dosing guides and things like that. But what Chris Williams is going to bring in is the business building, how to put together your team, how to build a business plan, how to know your numbers, how to reach marketing initiatives and grow your referrals, and then putting all this together and leading your team in the best way. So there's a lot going on this month in the network.
Yep. Chris Williams is going to be amazing. And she's launching a program too, a holistic nursing summit.
Yeah. The holistic coach business practice where it's a 4-week summit starting in June. And we're going to be kicking that off next week with some specials for our network.
Yes, absolutely. So you want to come into the network, www.holisticcaring.com. When you go to the main page, you're going to see a little green box that says join the network here. You click on that, you're going to join the network. Elisabeth and I are going to get a notification and we're going to let you into the network. The network is an amazing place to go to connect with patients and providers across the globe, right? And so in that network, there's a free introductory to cannabis course, free patient portal, monthly educational podcasts such as these, and we have all of our programs that are in there, all of our self-paced patient programs and professional programs, and you get to dialogue and interact with people all over the globe that are looking for new ways of healing, which is
updates. Today I put in a couple of different things, thinking about building nurses. Built businesses. We put in today the salaries that nurses are making across America. It's reflective of all 50 states. And you'll see, the Southeast where nurses are maybe making $60,000 a year, all the way to the Northeast or California where nurses are making $124,000 a year. Crazy, everything in between. And as we go forward, we're going to be building more opportunity for nurses to work the nurse line. So there's so many different things going on. It
is. And the nurse line. So this is what's important too. So the licensing program, the part that's great, the licensing program that Elisabeth has created allows you to not only, have the business toolbox in a box where you can take this and start your own practice. You can start to market yourself. You can own your own little business, but it also allows you to work on our platform. We're going to have Nurse Line with multiple different companies, and it's going to be your toolkit that you're going to take when you do telehealth. So if you're interested in being in our Nurse Line, we're working with various different companies, and it's a telehealth position. And so you want to have your tool bag with you. You think about when you go visiting nurses, you carry your little nursing bag with you. It's the same thing. And this is all about education and information, the tips, the tricks, the hugs, the nugs, everything that you need so you can truly impact a patient's life and meet them where they're at and provide the education that they need so they can choose the best products and the best formulations. So we're really, really excited to be able to offer that. We are creating jobs for nurses. Really excited to expand our platform. We just started a nonprofit, Holistic Caring Inc., which I want to plug really quick before we close because we have a few minutes. And that's going to be amazing. That is going to be a free nurse line for patients. Now, so patients can come and think of their questions. They call, hello. You get Nurse Sherri, you get Nurse Denise, you get Nurse Elisabeth on the phone, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. And then we're going to help direct you to the appropriate resources that you may need to get started on your journey. So very, very excited about that.
The nonprofit is really like a triage place, right? So everybody has questions. Could this help me? I've heard that cannabis helps everything. How is this so? And I'm on a boatload of pharmaceuticals. How can this help me? Is this applicable for pain? Is this applicable for cancer? Is this applicable for neurodegenerative diseases and modulating all of the symptoms that you or a loved one might have? Well, that nurse line will be that first step. Right? Calling there and empowering you to say, how can this help you? And what do you need to get there? Do you need a program? Do you need a one-on-one coaching? Could we just answer a few questions and get you off and running with, one of the fine products that are available in our CBD marketplace? And then we are going to be building a special formulation for the company called Canum, where we will be launching Lumiere. And Lumiere is going to have formulations that Sherri and I have been designing. Hopefully that'll be launching in the next couple of months, where we'll have nurses specifically answering those questions, which also answers why we were in 3 countries in February. That was quite a trip, huh? Where you really mastered that digestive tincture with Bloom, and not just that one, but also their calm and their relax
yes,
which helped me sleep. Because we were going from Phoenix and Tucson to Albany, to the Berkshires, to Western Massachusetts, where we started filming High Science with the Canna Provisions people, and then over to Toronto, and across Niagara Falls into Canada, down into the Medicine farms, where we got to see 13 acres of the most incredibly grown plants that I've ever seen. 300,000 ladies, the mother room, and all of that they're exporting a ton, or 2,200 pounds every week, into all GMP grown, GMP, and then the down into Jamaica. We went down to Jamaica to see the Jamaican Red Moon farms that Canam is operating there in Jamaica. And those are being sent to Australia to formulate into the Lumiere tincture brand that is being exported now into the UK, into Germany, into so many different countries, and of course Australia, where they are selling these products that we are helping to shepherd through the process to create trained clinicians to represent patients to do what? Change the paradigm of healthcare. Right? That's
it. You said it.
Change the paradigm of healthcare is one of my favorite things to say, because the patients are timed out in conventional care. We know that, Sherri and I are both survivors of that system for the last 30 plus years. I have had 3 shoulder surgeries and all these pinched nerves in my neck, dealing with my issues on a daily basis and healing my body from all of the inflammatory processes that pharmaceuticals alone could not do. I've got a new body and a new mind and a new soul ready to really bring this into practitioners around the entire world to give patients this option. So
absolutely. So please help us change the paradigm of healthcare. Share the show, share the message, come join us in the community. We love you all. Join us tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for another episode of Green Nurse Podcast. And remember, everybody, what it's all about. It's about living your best life and helping others do the same.
Thank you.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And the more research I did, the more I discovered the cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.